Thank you. Sarah, you are right. I can only do one thing at a time. That is for sure. Just ask my wife. I want to take this chance to Mike, first speaker. I'm a B schooler from South Dakota as well with that same B school education. I know exactly what you're talking about. I was in the top half, so thanks for being in the bottom half. We actually were rivals from our towns, which is hilarious. And also, thank you for your service. How about that, huh? Angela, it's an honor to be here. It truly is. I'm rather new to the speaking world and always meet professional speakers. People have been doing it forever, always gracious people. And it's an honor to be here in front of all of you to just talk a little bit about what it is that makes me up. And as I went to Iowa, so real quick show of hands, like, where are my Hawkeyes at? Come on. We might as well do that while we're here, right? We're the Cyclones. Let's just identify ourselves. We've got to get that out of the way, and then there's no Huskers here, right? Of course there is. I know there's some Bison here too somewhere. All right, well, before I left that small town in Mount Vernon, South Dakota, population 368, played 9-man football. The real people play 11. I learned that when I went to college. My dad gave me some sage advice. It's the best advice I ever gotten. Is never forget where you came from. And don't we think that's some important advice? And I know it means a lot more now at 41 than it did at 18 when I left. But when I went to Iowa, I was over my skis in a lot of ways. Fear, scared of failure, a lot of things that really were on my mind that I thought were going to affect my ability to have success. And I think these 3 principles is something that we live by in that small town that I now push on to my kids that are really, really important and valuable to me. Never forget where you came from. And that can mean a lot of things, good and bad. Treat people right, be authentic. It's an important service that I try to teach my kids as a teammate, as a classmate, as a coworker, and relationships are everything. This is the slice of life, the slice of heaven, relationships. Look people in the eye, shake their hands, have respect for your teammates and the battle that they're going through. So as I became a pro and I climbed that ladder at Iowa, had a great career, had a lot of fun beating the Cyclones, and sneak that in there. And as I became a pro, it became really evident to me the first time I sat down for a press conference. And I was no longer in the small town protected environment that was Mount Vernon. I was no longer in Iowa City where everybody had your back and everybody was going to protect you. It was the Wild West. It was business. It was, you better be good or we'll find somebody else. And I thought back about 3 years ago, it was like, well, how was I able to make it 11 years? Like, what really identified, what set me apart? Was it physical? No. There's a physical minimum to be good in the NFL. You have to be fast, you have to be big, you have to be strong. These things are minimums. So what separates you? I thought back is the one identifier for me. I met my wife my freshman year of college. She was a Hawkeye as well. And she gave me the first purpose I really had, right? Of football was what I did, it's not who I was. And that's a picture of my family right there. My girls, I have 4 daughters and a wife, been married for 18 years, have a 17-year-old now, unbelievable. I know I look really young. But I identified my purpose as a young professional as being a dad and a husband first, and allowed me to stay focused on the things that were really, really important. But it also gave me this idea that if I have the purpose and the motivation is in the right spot, right, who am I doing it for? What drives me and motivates me? Because it's really actually pretty easy to make it in the NFL by percentages. It's really hard to stay. So how do I stay? How do I not get caught up? Well, the first way is don't get caught up by doing other things that are outside of you. Focus on what's really, really important. My family. Motives determine your outcome. I believe this to be true in almost everything you do. A couple of really great teammates of mine. On the left, Adam Thielen. Grew up in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, had no scholarship offers, went to Division II Minnesota State Mankato. He fought every fight to be able to make the Vikings. He came out of college, we call it the call of the wild. Anybody who had a heartbeat who was good at Division II football or better got a chance to come to this workout. He made it through that workout, got to the next weekend. Makes it through mini camp, makes it through the team camp, makes it through training camp, just refuses to get cut. Adam's mentality was so good about team first. Every day he woke up, he's like, I'm gonna go prove it to myself and to my teammates that I'm gonna be good enough today. And I'm gonna do that over and over and over. His motives, right, were not how much money can I make. His motivation was not, I'm gonna be a celebrity, I'm gonna be running around town doing all sorts of crazy things. No, his motivation was, I'm gonna prove it to myself first, then to my teammates, to my family, to my small town, that I can do this, that I can make it. And his motivations were pure. He got one opportunity because a receiver went down in his 3rd season. And that dude's still playing in the NFL. And he's made more money than he ever could have dreamt of making when he left Detroit Lakes, because his motivations were not about the money. Percy Harvin on the right. Top 5 freak of all time I played with, and I mean that in a good way. Physically, one of the best, fastest, most athletic. This dude is the Tesla, and I'm the F-150. I mean, he blows me off the line. And sometimes when you're a pro and you've seen a lot of crazy things, like Adrian walks in the door, Adrian Peterson, you're like, well, that's different, never seen that before. Steve Hutchinson's a Hall of Fame right guard, like I've never been pancaked that many times before. Percy walks in, and you see his acceleration, you're like, that's new. My brain's never seen something that fast before. Percy was an excellent teammate to us. He would run through a brick wall for his teammates. But his issue was he had issue with authority because he wanted to get paid quick. His motives were all financial. His motives were all about, really, himself. Now again, great teammate, treated us great, but his motivation determined his outcome. Vikings release him, he goes to Seattle. He's out of the NFL 2 years later. This Hall of Fame type player is out of the NFL after 7 years. Way, way, way too short, because his motives were selfish. His motives were finances first, and his response to coaching and leadership, what an authority figure he couldn't handle. So when I looked at, okay, what's the one thing in the NFL and in college football that I thought separated sports, and I think I can take to the business world and say, you know what, this is how you separate yourself as a business. Accountability. After every football game you play, you go sit down in the team meeting room just like this in front of the entire team. Coach is up here on the screen, and he's going through every play. Good, bad, ugly, positive, whatever it is, you go through it. And if you're sitting in that chair looking back at the film, and you know that on play 15, you made a mistake. You gave up your gap, they score a touchdown, issue, it's yours. Now, if you look at that and say, Coach, hey, that's on me. Guys, it won't happen again. Right? My reputation's been built up by my teammates in the weight room and speed work and all these things throughout the year that if I don't put up my hand and say, Coach, that's on me, immediately, right, my teammates look at me like, he's a fraud. That accountability piece in the business world and in team really sets culture apart. And culture is the one way to identify and root out those guys, gals, that don't buy into what you're trying to do within your team, within your culture, within your company. And it starts at the top. I always respected all of our head coaches. Coach Ferentz at Iowa, but really Mike Zimmer, a coach in the NFL, he was a guy that would absolutely jump on a grenade for his team. If all of a sudden we go through a game, we take a loss, he would find 5 plays that he screwed up and said, I didn't prepare you well enough. That's on me. He'd go to the media and he would say, you know what, that's not on the guys, that's on me. And when that trickle down starts at the top, and your leader, your boss, says, you know what, guys, hey, that's on me. That culture of accountability, that culture of being, it's okay to fail, it's okay to be wrong, that really matters. Because now as an athlete, I know I can put everything into it. I'm going to fail, because football is a reactionary sport. You are not going to play a perfect game. It's impossible. You're okay with failure, but you're not okay with the lack of accountability. Because I know if I fail on play 15, the next time I won't make that mistake again. Now it becomes a weapon, a tool that I can use to not have it happen again. So when it starts at the top and trickles down to the team, that's where culture is built. Our strength coach at Iowa, Chris Doyle, was there for a number of years, one of the most important people in my life as a young person, 18 to 22. At first, when he was trying to build the program, he led the culture. This is who we are, this is how we show up, this is how we work. By my 3rd year, which was his 5th year at Iowa, the culture was embodied with the team. He didn't have to say a word, because that trickled down from the top, from coach to us, infused us to say, you know what, this culture is actually ours. We control this. And if we know that you're not holding up your end of the bargain, you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you're not being an Iowa Hawkeye, you're not breaking the rock, right? We're going to find you and we're going to out you because you're a fraud. And that accountability is how companies rise. This was a big one. My wife was really good at making me self-aware at what I was bad at. Had a good mom, too, that was really good at that, too, growing up in a good way. Be your harshest critic. And I think as a pro, when you're trying to always be on top, because I said it's easy to make it, it's hard to stay. There's always a younger guy coming in. There's always somebody new, somebody sexy, somebody that can pay less but do the same job. How do I stay on top? Self-awareness is the biggest key. And again, it talks about priorities. When I came home from a tough loss, when I came home from a great game, Never too high, never too low, keeping the focus on my priorities, my family, my kids, and the ability to look at what I was good at and bad at and say, my weaknesses are these. I watched the film, I know my weaknesses. I can run from them, or I can own them and be like, yeah, I got to get better. And then I get an off season to go improve. We all do that every day. We can look at our lives and we can break it down today and say, how can we get better? Because we're cutting a corner somewhere. And the other thing that people don't focus on as an athlete, it was like, well, I'm really good at these things. Well, if you stop practicing and working and looking at the fundamentals, if those things just stay really good, well, you're not striving for excellence. You're not trying to be the best. Your strengths have to get stronger. No yes men. This is a big one in pro football. If you have a bunch of people around you all the time telling you how great you are, man, you're good at this, you're good at that. Adrian was a great teammate of mine for 10 years. Hall of Fame running back, one of the best to ever do it. We all probably know who Adrian is. Everybody in his life told him how great he was all the time. Everybody. Wife, uncles, because a lot of times they had their hand out. They wanted money. So when you have those intentions, you want something, you're going to tell them how great they are. Well, I looked at Adrian and be like, well, you can't block. I beat you all the time like a drum. Right? Physically, you're way better than me. I should never be able to get around you. Secondly, you can't catch a ball. I don't see you working at that after practice. So for 10 years, I was in his mind all the time about how can you improve? How can you sharpen your skill? You're the best already. Imagine how good you could be. Become self-aware and let those people in your life that show you your weaknesses. Humility is funny for this one because look at that picture. I was in college there. What a mistake that was. Not the wife, but the hair. And quick story. Humility was something that I was born with. That small town gave me. But I truly learned the hard way by being humiliated. And I love this story. It was 2004 at Ohio State. We lost 19-10, and I thought I played a really good football game. The reporter comes after me afterwards and said, hey, defense played great. On the road, you lose 19-10. This is a really good Ohio State team. Tough place to play. What more could you have done? I'm like, you know what? Man, there's just nothing else we could have done. And defense played great. Offense gave up that pick six. Bad field position on special teams. We really did all we could do. And fast forward the next day, that room, you're sitting in front of the whole team, coaches, players. The first thing the coach flips up on the screen, my quote. Coach Ferentz, who's somebody that I look up to like a father figure, godlike figure in some cases. He still makes me nervous. I'm 41. And to know that I disappointed him in so many ways, and then look at my teammates and be like, you can't run from that quote. I'd embody what it meant to be an Iowa football player. Selflessness, right? Give everything. Hard work, work ethic. It all matters so much, and it can be ruined with one quote. It's taken out of context. No, you have to eat that one. You got to look at your teammates and be like, listen, that's on me, right? Here's what I did. It was a mistake. Because the next 10 things he showed were the 10 plays of that game where I missed a tackle, missed an assignment. And guess what, Chad? You could have done more. You can always do more. So that ability to look at yourself and be like, here's my weaknesses. That ability to not point a finger, right? Culture builder. Massive learning experience for me. To be truly humiliated was a hard way to learn humility. So, the focus. Find your purpose. And really, if you have a purpose, what is it without passion for that purpose? Live it every day. Be consistent. I always like to say, my best ability as a pro was availability. They couldn't get rid of me. I just kept showing up to work every day, right? And sometimes that's enough because at the top level, when everybody's like this and everybody's really good and the separation is really small, what's going to separate you? For me, it was consistency, accountability, reliability. Things that take no talent, I just kept showing up. And sometimes when people are trying to hire and people are trying to be better, it just means you got to keep showing up and having the right people around you. Thanks for having me. It's a blessing. Angela, I really appreciate you having me today. And thanks for listening.